The TARDIS lands on a space station orbiting Earth in the distant future. It's seemingly deserted, but the Doctor, Sarah, and Harry soon discover that they are not alone. Thousands of humans are in cryogenic sleep, and while they slept, their ark has been invaded. A parasite insect race, the Vern, have taken control and threaten the very future of mankind. Welcome, friends and companions! How are you today? This is your host, Enigmatic Joker. This is not a YouTube channel, but I'm a person. Ha ha ha! I'm a passionate Whovian, and I want gladly about to talk about Doctor Who and related stuff. So today we have a fourth Doctor story called The Ark in Space. And as usually, we do some general info when we dive into the plot. This story is four parts. When we name some cast members, the world building, some story notes, and we do the context, the continuity, because story and episodes in the universe are to some extent related to each other, are from influence to each other, linked to each other. So let's go then. Change the banner. Yes, fourth Doctor story, The Ark in Space. So, some general info. The Ark in Space was the second serial of season 12 of Doctor Who. It was the fourth Doctor's first full post-regenerative story. It proceeded from a mild cliffhanger at the end of Robot, showing that happened after Harry Sullivan climbed into the police box in Unit's laboratory. It reportedly established the location of Nerva Beacon, which would be the narrative linchpin of the season. The Ark in Space had a somewhat tortuous scripting process, having slipped past two writers before its scripts were finally accepted. Both Christopher Langley and John Lucarotti tried and failed to write a script about a space station for season 12. Of the two, Lucarotti came closest. However, because he then lived on a boat anchored in the Mediterranean and there was a postal strike afflicting Corsica, Lucarotti was essentially incommunicado to script editor Robert Holmes. It was impossible for Holmes to conduct timely consultation with the Doctor Who veteran. But Lucarotti was paid fully for his work, and Holmes undertook a page one rewrite, retaining only the central concept of Lucarotti's tale. That's info, the Ark in Space. Despite its difficult birth, the story won kudos from the BBC Wales production staff. Russell T Davies once called The Ark in Space his favorite storyline of the 1963 version of Doctor Who. That is a DOC inside the world of Doctor Who. And Stephen Moffat considered the best fourth Doctor story. While Barnaby Edwards confessed to being petrified of the Vern as a child. Tom Baker himself has also stated that of all the stories he filmed, The Ark in Space was his favorite. So, favorites. It was a particularly popular serial with contemporary audiences as well. Part 2, in fact, was the fifth most watched program of its week, making it the highest charting episode of the original version of the program. In fact, it retained its crown until the transmission of Voyage of the Damned. This is the second most watched program of the week. And the Voyage of the Damned is, of course, a Christmas special with the 10th Doctor and his companion, Astrid. From a production standpoint, it was the first story produced by Philip Hinchcliffe, the new producer of after Barry Letts departed from the show. He established a new, darker, and ostensibly gothic style of storytelling during his time as the producer of Doctor Who. Although this particular story only demonstrated the former trait, being more in the genre of the space opera horror, later popularized by Alien. Alien is een movie in 1979 horror. And there's also a franchise with more and more movies. There's Alien 2, 3, 4, and also the crossover with Predator, two movies. Notably, a much later TV story would inadvertently find itself mimicking a contemporary of the same genre. So it's actually you can this story you can compare with some Alien, but in a lighter way, of course. Not much blood in the story of Doctor Who than in Alien. Okay, we now dive into the plot. As I was already saying, 4 parts in this story. You begin with part 1. So spoiler alert. If you haven't watched this story yet, I recommend you do that. Otherwise, it's spoiled. Let's go. Part 1. An unseen presence approaches a space station orbiting Earth and silently infiltrates it. It reaches a human who is clearly asleep and unaware. The TARDIS materializes in a dark and stuffy room aboard the apparently unmanned station, due to Harry's inadvertent interference with the Helmick regulator. Once the Doctor turns the lights on, the TARDIS crew decide to look around. Harry presses another switch, unknowingly trapping Sarah in a small control room where the oxygen is rapidly being consumed. By the time the Doctor and Harry find her, she's severely cyanosed. They then find themselves trapped with her. The Doctor repairs the oxygen servos just in time to save them all. He notices that the control cables have been bitten clean through. As Sarah recovers on a nearby couch, the Doctor and Harry are attacked by an automatic sentry system, which fires electronic bolts at any moving organic object, including people, a cricket ball, and a doctor's scarf. Meanwhile, Sarah is transported from the couch on which she is resting into a chamber where she hears two voices preparing her for a quote unquote journey. The Doctor and Harry deactivate the auto guard by distracting it with Harry's shoes and discover that Sarah has vanished. Exploring further into the station, they encounter a slime trail in the corridor but continue into a restricted section holding hundreds of cryogenically suspended humans, along with animal and botanical specimens and an information store. Harry opens a berth and finds Sarah in suspension. He begins looking for a requisition and unit to revive her and opens a cupboard, only to encounter a giant insect which lurches at him. Hello, Joseph. Um, what I do with this story is I have done some general info. Now I'm in the two plots, and then I actually go to some story notes and I'm describing and analyzing where it is in the context in the continuity of Doctor Who. So I link it also with other stories, and that is what I always do with stories of Doctor Who. I connect it, analyze and connect it in the universe. So now I'm in the middle of the plot. I'm actually now at part 2. Thank you for your question. So if you haven't watched this story yet, I highly recommend to do that. Otherwise, yeah, you actually hear the plot. Yes, thank you. Yeah. So part two of the plot of the story. The insect falls to the floor, obviously dead for a long time. The doctor finds a medical kit but is unsure of how to use it. One of the sleeping pellets activates, and occupant takes the medkit and sleepily uses it to revive herself fully. She introduces herself as Vara, first medtech, and demands to know what the TARDIS crew are doing aboard. She agrees to revive Sarah when she realizes her suspension was an accident. Vara explains that solar flares were threatening to destroy Earth's ecosystem and that the government put a select group of humans in suspension on space station Nerva so they could repopulate the Earth after 5,000 years. She is astonished when the doctor informs her that she has overslept by several thousand years because of the aliens' sabotage. While she tries to revive the station commander Lazar, or Noah, as he is known, the power fails again. The doctor goes down to the station's infrastructure to effect repairs and sees a large green grub in a solar collector, feeding on the solar energy. Noah revives and demands the TARDIS crew be removed before they contaminate the genetic pool. He arms himself and proceeds to control room, where he stuns the doctor, and Fire notices that Dune, the station's chief technician, is missing from his pallet. Noah ascribes this to the regressive interloopers. He enters the infrastructure to look for any damage the doctor may have done, but is accosted by the grub, which touches his hand and renders him unconscious. Harry and Sarah find and wake the doctor, only to be escorted back to the cryogenic section by Noah, who keeps his hand firmly tucked out of sight in his pocket. As they return, Vira is reviving Libri, a young technician who is instantly afraid of Noah when he first sees him. The commander begins to act erratically and insists the revivals be halted and that Dune is not missing, stating, I am Dune, before storming out. The doctor convinces Libri to go after Noah and stop him. He then proceeds to examine Dune's cryogenic pallet. He finds membrane from the alien queen's egg sac and concludes that the queen laid her eggs in Dune's body before she died. And the alien larvae have absorbed Dune's knowledge along with his body. Libri, meanwhile, finds Noah in the control room but cannot bring himself to shoot his commanding officer, who kills him before bringing his hand slowly from his pocket. He has started to metamorphose into an alien being. End of part 2. Part 3. The voice of the Earth High Minister comes over the station's PA system to deliver a rousing recorded speech for the awakening colonists, while Noah tries to fight the alien presence in his mind. He contacts Fyra and transfers command to her, ordering her to get the sleepers revived and down to Earth as soon as he can. Before he loses control, he says the aliens are called the Wurn, and states, we shall absorb the humans. The Doctor and Fyra go in search of Noah, leaving Harry and Sarah to revive two more crew members, Rogin and Lisette. Noah, more fully absorbed by the worm, meets Dr. Avara in the main corridor and explains that the larvae are approaching adulthood. Farah takes what is happening to Noah very badly. The commander and she were pair bonded for the colonization. Harry and the doctor perform a brief autopsy of the queen and discover the Wern are a space-dwelling species. Farah begins to initiate the next phase of revivals, but the doctor convinces her to delay while he develops a plan to stop the Wern. Using the Ark's technology, he links his mind to the queen's neurocortex, experiencing her last few memories. Meanwhile, a grub breaks into the cryogenic chamber, kills Lyseth. Harry and Rogan run to the armory for fission guns, narrowly avoiding Noah, and try to grab back into the air duct with the doctor's help. The doctor has learned that the queen was killed by the auto guard and decides to electrify the walls of the cryogenic section. He transmits Rogan and Harry to the control room before the power fails again, and realizes that the worm must be pupating into adults. He goes down to the infrastructure to turn the power back on. But Noah has almost become an adult worm and advances on the doctor. The only thing that remains human about him in his face is his face, and until this is then fades away to be replaced by the features of the worm. End of part 3. Now, the last part of the story. Clara appears at the top of the stairs and fires her gun at Noah, allowing the doctor to get clear. Noah asks Farah to stand and listen to his proposal. If she and the awakened crew members take the station shuttle, he will order the swarm to let them go. The Vern will absorb the remaining sleepers and become a technologically advanced race, like the human prisoners who displaced them centuries before from their homeworld in the Andromeda galaxy. Farah refuses to abandon the Ark, and the crew try to come up with a way to ensure power will reach the Doctor's electric bulkheads. Sarah suggests the shuttle Noah mentioned and volunteers to carry a power cable through the service conduits to the cryogenic section. As she proceeds past the Wern, they try to stop her and the shuttle crew from performing their tasks. Two Wern are repelled by a test burn from the shuttle's engines. Sarah gets stuck in the conduit, and the doctor uses reverse psychology, complaining that she is useless in an emergency, not nearly as tough or resourceful as she thinks she is, to help her get through. Sarah fights her way through, only to realize she has been conned by the doctor. The electricity keeps the worm at bay, but Noah threatens to turn off the oxygen with the worm, which the worm don't need. The doctor tries to remind Noah of his human past and urges him to lead the swarm back into space where they belong, but Noah claims I have no memory of the Earth. The entire swarm breaks into the shuttle's cargo hold and tries to reach the bridge. Clara sets the controls for automatic takeoff and disembarks, while Rogan and the doctor remove the synesthetic locks that hold the shell down. Rogan sacrifices himself by removing the final lock. He is killed by the shuttle's exhaust. As the doctor wonders if Noah let the swarm abort the shuttle on purpose, Noah radios the station and says goodbye to Vira before sabotaging the shuttle, making it explode in space and proving his humanity had won. Vira vows to get the sleepers revived and down to Earth, but without the shuttle, they will have to rely on the transmat. The doctor, however, notices that the transmat receptors on the ground are faulty and volunteers to beam down with Harry and Sarah to fix them. As they have done so, Farah smiles, the first human emotion she has shown, and then returns to her duties. That's the end of the plot of the story. I will name the cast members. Doctor Who is played by Tom Baker. Sarah Jane Smith is played by Elizabeth Sladen. Harry Sullivan is played by Ian Marder. Farah is played by Wendy Williams. Noah is played by Kenton Moore. Rogan is played by Richardson Morgan. Lacet is played by John Gregg. Livery is played by Christopher Master. Worm operators are Stuart Fell, famous Stuart Fell, and Nick Hobbs. Hymenator's voice is Gladys Spencer. And voices on Nerva is Peter Tuddenham. Also very famous Peter Tuddenham. Because he also the voice of Zen, Oric, and Slave in Blake 7, actually. Also a good sci-fi story. In fact, I have all the DVDs of Blake 7. So Peter Tuddenham was the voice of Zen and yeah, and Oric and Slave. In fact, all the computers in the story of Blake 7, actually. Yeah. Okay. So I highly recommend you to watch Blake 7, also an sci-fi series from the 70s and begin 80s. Some world building in the story. Individuals, four things. Dr. Sassy's scarf was knitted by Madame Nostradamus. Second thing in individuals is that Harry calls Dr. Boffin. Third thing, Harry mentions Pompey barracks. And the fourth thing is that Dr. Paraphrases Henry IV, discretion being the greater part of valor. Second thing in world building with foods and beverages is that the Doctor keeps brandy in the TARDIS. A third thing in world building that deals with species, the worm's lungs can turn carbon dioxide into oxygen. And the second thing with species is that the Doctor mentions the immense genius of wasps as capable of injecting their larvae into caterpillars. Some world building science is that the worm are interested in assimilating human knowledge, including quantum mechanics. And the last thing in world building that deals with influences is that the cliffhanger at the end of part 2, in which Noah takes his hand out of his pocket to find that it has turned green and misshapen, was inspired by a similar cliffhanger in the fourth episode of the Quatermass experiment, in which Karun, a human astronaut who has become the host of an alien parasite, discovers that a cactus plant he had previously come into contact with has fused to the flesh of his hand. Ref the scripts from Baker, 1974, 1975. Okay, some story notes. Um, in part 1 of this story, the opening title sequence was tinted pink and green, making it appear brown rather than the usual blue. Even the light on top of the TARDIS is brown. This color tint was never used again. Other thing is that the Nerva sets are reused for Revenge of the Cybermen. And yeah, Revenge of the Cybermen is also in this season, and is in serial 5, the fifth story in this season. The whole story bears resemblance to the Ridley Scott film Alien, released in 1979. With Sigourney Weaver in it. Also recommendable, but it is 16 plus. It must be 16 years or older. Because, yeah, there is some little blood in it. Okay, another story note is that It's only mentioned once by Fyra, but Noah's real name is Lazar. Noah being a joke on his role on Nerva. Uh, okay. This was, by the way, this is the last non-season opener to introduce a new producer. And also, there was originally a scene where, in the final stage of larval infestation, Noah's head splits open and cracks in a torrent of acidic go that was cut because it was too graphic. There are conflicting reports on if the scene was ever filmed. If it was, the scene was lost. So, and also a scene was filmed where Noah confronts Fyra and begs her to kill him to end his agony, which Philip Hinchcliffe decided to cut it as was too dark. Yeah. The scene in the aired episode cuts from the shot of the doctor looking onto a shot of him glowering and looking harrowed from a singular angle in a different room, with the door shut and no indication how they got away from Noah. Kenton Moore, who played Noah, expressed his opinion that he was furious about the scene going because it was crucial to the whole story. The missing scene is lost. Yeah, some said that he decided to left out some things. So, in the original script, the conclusion of part four had the Verne going off the depths of space, having been led away from space arc Nerva by the fully transformed Noah, an ending presumably written by Robert Holmes to allow for a possible sequel to the story. However, the BBC feared that the possibility of the Verne surviving would frighten younger viewers, forcing Holmes to kill them off instead. Yeah. So sometimes I make decisions other for yeah purpose of age. Um, Okay, we go now to some continuity because I repeat it every time. Um, Stories in and episodes in the universe are to some extent relate to each other, linked to each other, and influence from influence. Some things in continuity. First thing is that the dark in space is part of our set concerning the Nerva beacon without TARDIS travel, beginning in the arc in space, continuing through TV story The Sontaran Experiment, Genesis of Daleks and Prose The Device of Death, and ending in TV story Revenge of the Cybermen, already mentioned. Set back aboard the Nerva beacon earlier in time. Doctor would return to the Nerva beacon in the company of Lila in the audio story Destination Nerva. So very important to remember, to notice. In prose, placebo effect features the Verne and delves further into their history and psychology. In audio, Verne Dawn is set during the war between the humans and the Verne. In TV story, The Beast Below, and that's of course with 11 Dr. Matt Smith, is set during the same um, set in is set during the same human diaspora from Earth, as the episode explains that Starship UK was launched just before the climax of the solar flares hit Earth. The colony ship Air One in TV story Smile is also from this era. And Smile is a 12th Doctor story with Peter Capaldi and his companion Bill. featuring Nardo. It's the second episode of Series 10. The 12 Doctor mentions having met other colony ships from the evacuation, and when the colonists start waking up, first to greet the Doctor and Bill is Nate, who describes himself as Matt Tech. A fifth thing is that according to audio, Vern Ice Isle is the recolonization process begin in 16,087. By 16,127, the main settlement was called Nerva City, which was built on the former site of New York City. Another thing is that the Doctor references the old Roma belief that the eye retains an image of the last thing beheld before death, in conjunction with the worm's ability to have their memories neurally impressed after death, able to be later viewed. His 11th incarnation would encounter a strange phenomenon that renders this superstition true. You see it in the TV story The Crimson Horror. Another thing is that the Doctor tests the Ark's gravity by playing with a yo-yo and judges its technology's age by examining a Bennett's oscillator. The 12th Doctor would repeat both actions on a space shuttle landing on Earth's moon in the V-story Kill the Moon. The Nerva beacon would remain in orbit of Earth until at least 16,127 in audio Vern Idle. And the last thing in continuity is that Harry reacts in amazement to the High Minister being a woman, as he says that fancy a member of the fair sex being top of the totem pole. Somewhat curiously, 4 stories later, Terror of the Zygons revealed that the British Prime Minister is a woman, although it could be probable that said Prime Minister may not have been in office prior to Harry being on the Nerva beacon. And so that, my friends, is actually all I have to say about this story. Yeah, one story. Yeah, that's in fact all I have to say about this story. So, this last thing I want to say is that you can contact me by sending a message in Discord. My username is Enigmatic Joker. All letters. Yeah. And then you can also, of course, you can put a comment under one of the YouTube videos to contact me and to talk to chat with me. So for now, I wish you a very nice day. Enjoy your day. Hey, good luck. Bye bye.